Sant George, Sant Jordi da Peranissart, painted by Peranissart. The representation of Sant Jordi, St. George, defeating the dragon, is one of the strongest symbols with which the Catalans identify and link themselves with the medieval origins of the nation. St. George has been represented along all the periods, as for example in the Romantic times, as can be seen in the balcony of the palace of the Catalan government, or also in the great period of the so-called Modernisme, with Gaudí and so many other artists, as well as for the forthcoming style called Noucentisme, being used the representation of St. George to communicate a strong patriotism. Nowadays, each 23rd of April, that is when it takes place the celebration of St. George, Sant Jordi, patron saint of Catalonia. The latest trends in design take their chance to innovate for this day. But despite the great evolution of the art along the centuries and the many changes in the way to represent the human figure, the animals, the relation in between them, this within a landscape, the movement, violence, ferocity, there is something that always remains. Medieval setting and opposition evil versus good, and the gallantry of George towards the princess, which was saved at the last moment from the mouth of the dragon by this brilliant cavalier. So Middle Ages, castles, long lances, shining armors, but really that lovely romantic story of St. George, the princess and the dragon, was fully invented by Jacopo de Varazze, who wrote one of the chapters of his Golden Legend, a compendium of stories of saints written around 1260. Chapter was dedicated to George, St. George. And the story he wrote is quite different to what probably really happened many centuries before, by 3rd, 4th century. By these late Roman times, Christians still were being persecuted. But slowly, more citizens and slaves joined the ranks of the new society, the new belief. Many Christians ended up their days being devoured by wild animals coming from Africa, tigers, lions, hyenas. Sometimes, in a more economic way, these proto-martyrs, the first martyrs, were burned alive after having tied them to a post. As seems that happened, that awful way to kill, to execute these first Christians, because remember, it was not just a religious matters that they say, well, we believe in many gods and you only believe in one. It was the key that the Christians, as they only believe in one God, and that was God Father, Son, the Holy Ghost, the Trinity, then they didn't recognize the emperor or the previous emperor as a devil, a God, and therefore it was like an attack to the foundations of the state, a disobedience to the rule of Rome. That was until or before Constantine, the emperor that legalized this new religion. They were persecuted in different moments, different areas or provinces of the Roman Empire. So burned alive after having tied them to a post, a scene that it happened in the arena of Tarragona, which is an amphitheater still quite well preserved. Let us remember, amphitheater means like amphi, double use, double theater also because the form is not half circle but double circle, which is not really a circle, it is more like an ellipse. And it was used for many different entertainments, not only these famous gladiators, but also the venatores, and of specialized gladiators to fight against wild beasts, and also the public execution, and also even sometimes they were making kind of circus, clown, divertimento, and in the biggest ones, like in the one of Rome, it has been proved by some archaeological research, or that at least is what they believe. Some archaeologians of Rome, they were making the naumachia. They were filling the arena with water, and then they were making recreations of famous naval battles. But well, concerning these first Creole martyrized Christians, before they suffered this awful end, obviously they were arrested. Something that it was done by the legionnaires. that in these times the army was like the police force. They are also staying sometimes next to the cities. And it is believed that St. George, then called Georgios, was a high official of a legion, but secretly he already had converted into the new faith. That is why, when a superior ordered him to arrest some Christians, it was when he refused. And then the arrested one was himself. With the pass of the centuries, once the Christian faith was firmly established, those stories of suffering believers of the early Christian times were not that appealing anymore. So the stories of abnegation and tortures of those early Christians turned into martyrs were progressively forgotten. But the remelting of life and miracles of St. George, that, let us remember, was one of these early Christians, gave it a second life and much popularity all over Christendom, from England to Catalonia, from Genoa to Georgia. By these times of late Middle Ages, at the height of the popularity of the brave gallant St. George, the way to represent him was on altarpieces, painted on board with tempera and with backgrounds of or partially of golden leaf. The appearance of the dragon in the new version of St. George comes to embody the sheer incarnation of the forces of evil. Some historians believe that the dragon would be the evolution of the eagle which headed the standards of the Roman legions. Thus, as the Roman legions were persecuting Christians, then later this animal, with the due transformation in size and flamethrower engine of his mouth, then came to represent all bad things. Not only the very same Satan, the Leviathan, but opposing forces to the Christianism as the Islam, for example. The many garibalds we still can see in the old towns of Europe would come to confirm this idea of the beast of evil menacing from the heights the souls of the citizens. Thus, the representation of St. George with his white horse would mean the purity of the good Christianity, like the white armor, while the red cross on the white banner would symbolize the blood of Christ. And so the Holy Knight, like the temple order that was also bearing these customs, this red cross on a white field, would represent the final victory of the Church on his Saracens enemies. That let us remember the Crusades, and also they were like not so well known Crusades, but they were not in the Middle East, but they were in Italy, so the area of Puglia, Sicily, and Andalusia, and Castile, and also Valencia. In the Iberian Peninsula, that was done this kind of crusades by military armies led by the Count of Barcelona, the King of Aragon, the King of Navarra, the King of Castile, and so on. For our gallery of honor of the Catalan painting, we have chosen a St. George painted by Pere Nissart, which is kept in the Diocesan Museum of Palma de Mallorca. It is a painting on board from 1476, date when oil painting, coming from Flanders, was being introduced in the rest of Europe. This new pictorial stuff came to displace the previous use of tempera, and it allowed to create transparencies out of the different pictorial layers. So we have an hybrid of St. George representation of painting, still late medieval due to his support on board, but at the same time half Renaissance because the oil technique being used. St. George is represented with his best apparel, as the knights with long lances that fought in joustings. Actually, it is a lance the element that dynamizes the composition, placing on the scene a lengthy diagonal crossing all the space from the background. The action takes place in the forefront, the fight of the knight against the dragon. The poor princess remains motionless, full of fear and hope that the knight will be successful to save her, remaining this beautiful girl still with the city far away at the background. A city which has a port, so probably the painter placed the event in the very same littoral town of Palma de Mallorca. Though there is a legend that the place where it took place, this fight of George against the dragon, was in Montblanc, the White Mountain, an inland town in the hinterland of Tarragona. which by the way is a human heritage site. Very advisable to visit, to travel with some time, as it has very well preserved walls, narrow winds, old church, and very close nearby. Also, there are the more modern, non medieval, so by 19th, 20th century early, the so-called cathedrals of the wine by a follower of Gaudí, who built it with very special parabolic arches. And there is also great medieval heritage, like also a root of the Cistercian order, Poblet, Santas Creus, a part of the lovely nature, fields of hazelnuts, almonds. So the sturdy presence of the white horse rises the young knight, giving him some advantage to attack with more strength the dragon, the Leviathan, the monster of monsters. We also can appreciate how the optical illusion of depth is created by the mean of dwarfing progressively the people and elements placed more at the background. From a chromatic point of view, the altarpiece shows ochre colors, starting with a light brown from the dragon at the first place, then going through the red dress of the princess, the stones and path whitish, and already in a second plane, more far away, the town and sea, which have already more clear tones. But the painting is not only attracting our gaze only to the depth. Somehow, also, there is a movement that comes back to us thanks through the stormy clouds that are coming to the viewer, these threatening clouds, thus linking the background with the foreground and creating an unending cyclus, a metaphor that the fight of good against evil is a never-ending story. St. George, with his standard of a red cross on a white field, was adopted by the Catalan government as his patron saint the 1456. From then on, together with the four red bars on a yellow field of the king, St. George's Cross has remained till our days as one of the symbols of the country. So this sign of the Red Cross can be seen in abundance not only while walking throughout the streets of the old town of Barcelona, but likewise is very present in contemporary things like the coat of arms stick on the top of the football club Barcelona. Nowadays, the meaning, the symbolical reading and understanding of St. George does not bear any more military values. It was in part thanks to the new interpretation that the Pre-Raphaelites, like Dante Daniel Rossetti, did of St. George, loading the saint with a loving, affectionate component that it didn't have so much before, though it had it partly. Let us remember all these stories of love affairs, but kind of spiritual, not so carnal, that comes from the Provençal literature and poetry back in the 12th, 13th century. Nowadays, in Catalonia, in the date of St. George, at the height of sunny spring, there is a festivity all over Catalonia, in all the squares and ramblas of towns and villages of the Principality and even beyond in Mallorca, Valencia, in the Catalan lands. So the people goes out to buy books and roses, giving them to the ones they love. So in Catalonia, St. Valentine's Day is not in February but in April. So we have on the one hand books to give and roses also to give and to receive. And as it became so popular and so steady for many, many years doing this, then abroad they discovered this tradition and some international organization, it took this day, 23rd of April, as the International Day of the Book, already established for some days. It is the day of the book, and it is said, it's not for sure, that is because this, here the booksellers, they chose this day to make the day of the discounts in the buying of the book, and then linking it with the rose, because by this 23rd of April, George Mass, is when they born or they died one of the two greatest writers of all times, as they were Shakespeare and Miguel de Cervantes of the Quixote. Beside this amorous lauding of St. George by the late 19th century, the myth of St. George was also especially revisited in Catalonia by the generation of the Modernisme, the period of Puig i Cadafalch, Dominic Montaner, Gaudí, Alexander de Riquer, Santiago Rossinyol, Ramon Casas, and so many, many others. They all found a patriotic vein in the Seine, the very militarist and knighthood way that they had in the Middle Ages to see St. George came to an end to be displaced by something else. But really, in the Middle Ages, St. George was far from this more modern idea of a blue princess that we have nowadays. For example, the very same Almogavers, which was a mercenary corps at the service of the Catalan dynasty, the most fearful and effectful of the times, a quick action force that was key for the expansion of the Catalan Aragonese crown along the western Mediterranean, but even reaching some eastern parts, like the very same Greece. These Almogavers, before entering into action, they shout, "Wake up, Iron! Wake up!" And for protection to the same patron, they also shout, "Sant Jordi! Sant Jordi!" The Almogavers began to acquire relevance with the conquering of Sicily by 1282, taking it out from the control of the French. And that deed was especially thanks to the commanding of the navy by Roger de Juria, the admiral. The coveted island was in the hands of the brother of the King of France, Charles d'Anjou. He had defeated in the Battle of Benevento the King of Sicily, Manfred, but the latter, as a future resource to defend his heritage, had married his daughter Constanza with the heir of the Catalan Aragonese crown, the one who will reign as Peter the Great. So the latter only needed an excuse to intervene in Sicily. Let us hear how Bernard Desclot, in his second great chronicle, tells us about this. And it happened that in the city of Palermo, the biggest city in the kingdom of Sicily, on Easter, the people from the town were going to the church. And many of these people were women, going to mass with their husbands, parents, brothers, and the people were going singing and cheerful. But then it happened that they encountered some wicked French soldiers at the service of the court of Charles, and these wicked men began to touch the breast of this woman, and the husbands told them, "Go away, don't annoy and dishonor the woman." But the French didn't make sense and began beating the Sicilians. Seeing that, the woman escaped and went shouting all over the city, "Against the French! Against the French!" So in few minutes the whole city was in upheaval and the locals began to persecute and kill the French. This revolt has been known to history as the Sicilian Vespers. Then the King of Aragon, fearing a harsh reprisal by the French king, went to help the people of Sicily, who much welcomed and greeted his arrival, acknowledging him as his Lord Protector. The chronicle continues, "God save you, King of Aragon and Sicily, and that you live for many years, reigning over us for many years with great honor, as well as your descendants. The barons of the kingdom of Sicily, their wives, children, are full of joy, and we declare that all that is ours is yours, inviting you to take the reins of the kingdom of Sicily, for you to be his lord and king. And here the lords of the island present to you all the letters, seals confirming this homage. And all the city, his balconies were dressed with draperies and banners, with flowers and smelling herbs, the people parading with the best gear, women singing, "Very welcome be our Lord, the King of Kings, for the grace of God, the one who has saved us from the cruel enemy, Charles."